And we begin in South Africa, where a parent who tried to intervene in a hijacking at the Faranani Primary School in Soweto has been described as brave. The unidentified man was shot and killed on Tuesday while trying to intervene during an attempted hijacking. It is alleged that a man who witnessed the hijacking tried to stop it and was then shot by the hijackers. Education member of Executive Council Matome Chiloane, while visiting the school on Wednesday, said the man lost his life trying to prevent a crime. He also said the department would provide psychological support to pupils and staff who may be traumatized by the incident. To speak more on this and how gun violence has been rampant in schools in South Africa, we are joined by Lizette Lancaster, a crime expert in Johannesburg. You're welcome, Lizette.
Thank you for having me.
Now, there seems to be no end in sight to gun violence in South Africa. What exactly has gone wrong for gun violence that has made it this rampant in the country?
Yes, thank you. So after democracy in 1994, we saw the cleaning up and mopping up of all the illegal guns that were still in the country from the arms struggle and also from the civil wars in our neighboring countries. Some of them have never been found, but we also had a very tight Firearm Controls Act that came into existence in around 2001. And we actually saw that our murder rate more than halved by 2011 with the efforts of the firearms, confiscations of illegal firearms, the clearing of illegal firearms, and also just the policing efforts that were taking place. At that stage, we also saw high levels of trust in the police. Fast forward a decade later, we see that firearms are now commonplace in the streets and in the people's homes simply because of corruption and thefts within the police of many, legal firearms, but also arms caches that have made their way back into the country through other borders, but also because of private security companies that have a lot of weapons. So many legal firearms are now in the hands of criminals, and there seems to be no huge effort or success in trying to tackle these armed groups that are perpetrating these hijackings, armed robberies, and other type of organized crime that is driving our violent crime rates.
Well, the situation of crime and criminality in South Africa is becoming one too many. Are these organized crimes or maybe just an element of criminality?
We have always had, especially since democracy in 1994 with the opening of our borders, lots of transnational crime syndicates that use us. We're en route on the drug trade from South America to Europe and the rest of Asia. We have, been dealing with all these illegal firearms and poaching and all sorts of organized crime groups for some time now. But what we have seen is that these groups have grown stronger, especially when COVID hit and the police's attention was on the enforcement of the lockdown. We've seen these syndicates grow in size. Of course, our unemployment levels are not helping. So for many young unemployed men, being part of gangs that start out on street corners, robbing old women, coming back from their pension pay points, or people working from their cash, has now grown, and they've almost graduated into lots and lots of groups that are becoming more brazen and organized.
Well, Lizette, just last week, a German tourist was gunned down in one of the tourist resorts. In previous months, similar incidents at Atava and Soweto also happened. And there are other incidents that have happened in this year alone. People are asking the question, is South Africa safe?
Yes, it is a very good question, and one that is concerning to everybody also in South Africa. Of course, we know that crime is not evenly spread throughout the country, that about 12% of police precincts account for about 50% of the murders. Tourist places are generally very safe. This has been very isolated, the incident with the tourists, because mostly South Africans, even the criminals, understand that, you know, tourists are important to the economy. I think what has happened is that the strengthening of organized crime groups are now tarnishing our reputation, and they do branch out into areas that are not necessarily normally crime hotspots. But most areas are still relatively safe, except for the hijackings that seem to be quite spread evenly across the Gauteng province especially.
So in order to change this perception, Lizette, what do you think the government must do? Because potential tourists might not want to come to South Africa based on this kind of criminality that keeps happening. What do you think should be done to stem the tide?
I think, you know, in South Africa, we really do need to strengthen our policing resources and capabilities. We have seen huge erosion in the capability and the skills with good people leaving the police. There are still many very good people left in the South African Police Service, but we know that these challenges have become immense. Like there's talk now of posting police members at schools, for instance, but we also see them in some of the crime hotspots. So resources are becoming a bit of, thin, and what we do need is a whole of society approach where, you know, they need to get the information from the communities. They need to build the trust, but they also need to work with the prosecuting authorities, SA Tourism and other organizations to really understand where these hotspots are, who are targeted, and to interrupt and intervene, you know, these networks that are operating there.
All right, thank you so much, Lizette. I think what is expedient is to preempt and prevent such activities, but then we hope that you're able to make headway with that. Thanks for joining us.